Hello and welcome to another episode of Freelance Fridays, the show where I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host and chicken mom, Ashley Ulmer.
Hello.
How are we doing today, Ash?
Good. How are you? Happy Friday.
I'm doing good. I am. It feels like no matter how soon I start prepping for these shows, I'm always like rushing at the last minute to get everything set up and going. But hey, what's new? That was true for season 1 of Freelance Fridays. Why should it change in season 2, right?
I know. I can always see you in the little green room thing. You're always like running back and forth, like grabbing your hat and like getting all ready.
Well, you gotta pick out the right hat. I mean, it takes time, and
True.
like if anything's gonna be late, it's not gonna be that. Ashley, who do we have joining us today?
We have our friend Edward Sun.
What?
Hey, Edward.
It's the man, the myth, the legend.
I was going to say Edward Creates because that's what I know him by.
We actually have a joke where people call me Edward Creates because I signed up for a dinner reservation using my Google name, which is Edward Creates.
Oh.
And the server came up to me and was like, "How do you pronounce your last name? Is it Creates?"
Mr.
I was like,
how are we doing today?
My last name is Sun. And then he showed me and I was like, oh no. And then
that's funny.
From that point, people have just been calling me Edward Creates.
I am a massive fan of that. And I too, in the internet day and age, have like fallen into like knowing people by their things. But like my thing is like, why, Edward? Like you have like a last name I would kill for. Like it's short, it's 3 letters, everybody knows how to like spell it. Like it's great. It's a fantastic
and it's cool
name.
too. Like it's like you can make it into this little sim. Like it's cool.
It's a good question.
Cool.
It's a good question.
I have an answer. I've already gone down this rabbit trail for you because when I was looking you up, when you type in Edward Sun, we can actually go do this right now. Let me share my screen.
I'm nervous for what you're about to show me.
I'll just show you like, dang it. It's very different now. This is what I was seeing a lot of before. Like you type Edward Sun in. I don't know what platform. I think it was YouTube. That's what it was. I was searching for you on YouTube, and it was all this. It was all just
Edward Cullen.
Edward Cullen.
That is correct.
In the sunshine,
my life. Ever since 8th grade, that has plagued my life.
Man, what a like terrible time for that to rope in. Like your name's Edward, you're in middle school, just bebopping, like rock and rolling with a name which you have had since birth, and then now on the screen it shows up Edward Cullen.
Yeah.
So guys,
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Edward Cullen is like the best. Like I don't know why that's a bad thing. I think he's the greatest.
Nobody said it was good, bad, or whatever. You just don't want to share your name with somebody.
Okay.
That's a hot take. Overrated, underrated for this week. Edward Cullen. All right, guys. So today we are going to be talking about a question from Mr. Colin Berry, who is a good friend of mine, and the question is, what does AI art mean for the future of graphic design? I'm really excited about this question. I personally have a lot of thoughts and feelings about it. I know we've got some other or comments from Instagram that I'll pull up here in a little bit too. But if you guys want to tee up a question for a future episode, you can let us know now in the live chat, or you can leave a comment if you're rewatching this video later. We do check these things, and we want to, the whole point of this show is to bring in guests and your hosts, and we all kind of just hop into the octagon together and like tackle a topic with, just kind of shooting off the rip here. So what does AI art mean for the future of graphic design to you, Edward? What do you think the future holds? I feel like this is a messy one to unpack here.
Yeah. You started with the hardest question. So
we got one question. This is it. You got 30 minutes to rock and roll on this puppy.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of stuff. I have a lot of thoughts, but I guess I will start with society as a whole.
We're going big. We're zooming all the way out.
I think the relationship with humanity and technology. Technology allows humanity to move on from certain things and focus on other things. So, for example, um, back in the day, you wanted someone to remember you. You gotta go to a painter. You gotta sit still for an hour and a half, 2 hours, so that they can paint you. And then you pay them for it. You take it, and then you give it to whoever you want to have your face on the wall, right? Um, and then when photography came out, it didn't remove painting from the world. It just made it so most painters had to do something else. Many painters had to do something else, and most people who wanted um, that same fulfillment, that same value that you get from a photorealistic painting of yourself, they went to this new technology, which was more convenient, faster, and all of that. But a lot of
And can
the
we even say it
population,
was only barely better and faster at the time? Like those old
right?
sit there and like that's what I think. So many of them didn't smile for 45 minutes while.
This is absolutely true, and but I do think the level of realism that you could accomplish was never seen before, right? And so I think a lot of people were challenged to have to maybe charge less for painting, or they just didn't get as much work or
Sure.
whatever. But there were also a whole new group of people that is now like massive, hugely saturated world of photography, um, and videography and all of the adjacent fields of like editing, photo retouching, etc. Right? And so I feel like as a member of the human race, that was a collective win for humanity, because so many people now get to experience the joy, that was maybe only afforded to the rich before.
That's
And I
fair.
Yeah.
and I think that's good. Um, and so I think wherever there is an opportunity, well, I guess I just said it's an opportunity. Wherever there is a huge change that is driven by technology, I think there is a real threat to, and there is a lot of change that will happen that will
Mm,
inevitably impact a lot of people's lives. Um, but at the same time, there will also be a new opportunity that can just as damaging and as fearful and as scary, maybe taking away or replacing or making obsolete or simplifying some jobs might be. There is on the other side an equally like
there's
inspiring,
an upside.
exciting,
Yeah.
yeah, like very good, net positive for humanity thing that's also happening at the same
Hmm.
time.
All right.
So
So we've done the super pulled back view. And I
yeah.
love that. Ashley, what do you think like on like thinking big picture like Edward is? Like what are your notes on that? Like do you have any like I guess this is it. Like pass fail. Is AI art a good or a bad thing just like conceptually? Not for your job or my job, but like is it good for humanity is kind of the one that Edward's tackling here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily bad. Like me personally, I don't like that style of art. I think it's interesting, but that's not like what I love. So I don't like I personally it hasn't really affected me as far as like if I like it or not, but I don't know. I think it's interesting. I think I like your point that you just made, Edward, about it. Like I never really thought about it that way. Like it is just like a new phase or like a new technology, I guess, in a sense. And when you were talking, it almost made me think that like when you were saying using the example of the photographers and the painters, like when the photographers came, obviously that made the painters' jobs more obsolete. But then at the same time, or I guess the same token, that almost increased the value of a painter because then it was more special than what everybody else was getting. So now it almost like makes people think, oh, well, I still want to get a painting because, or maybe for a little bit, like I'm sure there was like a wave of like everybody wants photography, nobody wants painter. But then probably after a few years or whatever, people were probably like, oh, you know what? I miss the old school paint because it's so unique and it's so, valuable. So I think at some point it will level out and almost make the former, like the human us creating these things, like a specialty, I guess. So I think it's actually it could be a cool thing.
And you touched on something there, actually, where like the cream of the crop painters in that analogy, like they never starved. Like, because the people that were like wealthier, that were hiring the fancy painters to do their Victorian child, they're going to still go with creme de la creme painter because it's an upper class thing to do.
Yeah.
And I really should have studied up a lot more on like Victorian history before we jumped on this. We're going to keep using this metaphor here, or the analogy here, but no, I do think that the people that are in trouble, and I'm in the camp of like, I do think it's going to have a pretty massive impact on the industry over the next 5 years. Now, does that mean we're all screwed? I'm not preaching doomsday, but I'm saying, like, if you think it's just a blip on the radar, I disagree. I think it's going to have some impacts, and I think as a whole it'll be good. I mean, I think somebody here in the comments said like it's going to do the same thing moms with cameras did for photography. It will cheapen the craft. Now, I do agree that it means that less people think they need a designer, but a lot of those people weren't hiring great designers and they weren't great clients before.
Yeah.
Because there is now like, yeah, you can put a great camera on a phone and put it in anybody's hand, or a good camera is affordable. But like I still hire a photographer to do our family photos because I know, like, I respect the craft. I get it. I want that.
Yeah.
So if you are making your buck as a commodity designer, and I'll kind of unpack that more a little bit, I think you need to get more creative in how to differentiate yourself. But Edward, I feel like our host has been talking here for a second. I feel like you're about to dive into another excellent point here. Did you?
Well, no, I completely agree with that. Also, I think it really just boils down to whether you have a livelihood depends on whether you can provide value that is worth paying for, given the marketplace that you're trying to work in, right? So, yeah, the people who were at the top of painting, they still are more valuable than they were still and are still more valuable than a lot of the technology can even try to come close to. And I think it's going to be the same way for graphic designers. I mean, it's not that AI currently is just a tool that can be used to create your concepts that you have in your mind, but you must first have good concepts. And so, I think as long as you can differentiate yourself, whether it be through concepts or whether it be through, the exact words to put into the AI to get the exact results. So you work faster, you work better, you get more accurate results, and you can provide more custom things than maybe someone else who's not as familiar with the tools.
Yeah.
Or even if you're like a developer of machine learning technology, you would also have more of an advantage. I just think like over time, for all things, people change, society changes. Therefore, in order for you to stay doing the thing that you're doing, you must change also. And for the people who refuse to adapt, only the people who are at the very top will be okay not adapting. But the people who are not at the top will have to adapt in order to keep going, like Blockbuster, Toys R Us as the examples.
Man, really eloquently put. And I realize we kind of just jumped straight into conversation here, guys. For those of you that don't know who Edward is, this is his Instagram. He is doing like some insane things. And I think this is what you're talking about when you're saying like the AI art style. And if you're,
sorry, there's a lot of stuff
so
before I show
he's explaining what's going on here in the deal, and these are super helpful too. But it's just like super surreal and crazy, like. And I feel like this is one way to use it. And it is a very popular, interesting way that we're seeing a lot of people doing right now. Some people better than others. Like Edward, your stuff is killer. But I think that is just like scratching the surface on one version of this. Like there's a whole bunch of different things that we're going to see come out of it. Different weight, like levers you can pull inside of here. Like I'm imagining If you're a comic book person or like, storyboarding a movie or something like that, well, hey, you don't have to either have a blank page or hire super nice like fantasy artists for lots of money. You can do some of your early rounds with this kind of stuff as your like backdrops, or thinking like, oh, what
Yeah.
could some space age like water silos look like? Like, I don't know, let the robot crap some out for us. And I've seen a similar thing in, I know this is gonna like maybe sound really nerdy, in the soundtrack industry, where like the days of anybody in a basement can mimic a full orchestra, and so directors have been using these things. I think they're called like comps or whatever, but it's basically like they'll layer on a soundtrack from another movie or some video game or whatever
Mm.
else as they're like recording the thing, to flesh it out a little bit, or as they're going through like early editing. But then the problem is, and this is where a little bit of that cheapening does come in, where the craft gets a little bit dampened, because the fantastic composers that might be able to bring like a fresh voice or fresh idea to that conversation, they're then being a little bit told like, hey, I want it to sound like this. And I've seen the movie with this playing 8,000 times already. And so now I can't hear something, or it's harder for me to hear something new. Could be some of that coming into play here, but again, we're way up in the clouds with with the conversation today. Yeah, Edward.
Sorry, guys. I have to keep muting because my dog keeps going insane. So that's why I keep being quiet.
No,
so I apologize.
You're great. Edward, another reason I wanted to have you on the show is I've just been like floored with your growth but like, obviously, yeah, you got 1 billion followers now, but like in your craft, like I met you maybe like 2 years ago. Like, you're doing great work then, but I've just watched you methodically like plugging away and like mastering your craft while you're working a full-time day job. I'm sure you take some stuff on the side potentially too. But like just watching you like ravenously like go after it in this journey here, and you can see like going through different styles and stuff. So I don't want everybody, if this is your first time meeting Edward, to say like, oh, Edward's the AI art guy. Like, no, he's like a fantastic designer and student of the craft, and is kind of like, at least in my feed, is one of the first to the watering hole with the AI stuff. And so that's why I thought this would be an interesting conversation to have today. So I don't want y'all to think this is Edward the robot boy coming in to try to take everybody's jobs and evangelize AI art. That is not the topic of the show today.
No, thank you. That's actually one of the biggest challenges that I've had to face now, because I spent like 1.5 years building like the Christian creative community type of following, and then suddenly I get like 90,000 people that are not that.
That's an odd.
Yeah, and it's difficult because I mean, this was not planned to talk about, but
no, please tell me about the woes of having 100,000 followers, Edward, because that's new territory to me.
No, but it was fascinating because, like, once you have one post that goes above 100K views, you start to get the hate comments, right? And so the hate comments are like, number one, I hate God, so I understand that, and then there's I hate AI, and then there's this is just disgusting to look at, and I think
you're just like, I was just posting stuff, guy. Like, I'm not. You don't even have like an angle here. Like, I don't hear you like doing a sales pitch in any of these things.
I was challenged because at that point I was like, man, I have this following. I like, this means a lot for my career potentially. But I don't want to not talk about God anymore just because like the numbers. And then it kept growing. And so I was like, I don't want to be motivated by money. Ever since I started posting graphics, I was overtly like open about my faith, everything was centered around that.
Yeah.
And then when I started doing AI stuff, it was like, now people are coming at me because it's about like heaven on earth, for example.
Yeah.
Or like glory of God, things like that. And then it got to another point, which is really interesting, where it actually started blowing up the more I talked about God in AI because of how controversial it was.
Oh, so the conversations get going down there. Interesting.
Yeah, so it started being good, but then it was the same problem, because I was like, oh, now I feel incentivized to talk about God for money. which is
Mhm.
not right either.
This is wild. This is
so-
wild times in 2022,
Yeah.
man.
Like if you
Does
see
all
like,
that makes sense though? It makes a ton of sense.
my most viewed video is it's the God's wrath one, and it's the glory of God one. The only ones that I actually mention God in.
Wow.
And yeah, it's a very trippy situation.
Inspired by my commenters who said I sugarcoated the glory of God too much.
What they said,
Hilarious.
but
Oh man, that's wild.
Is that like, so like, would it be like, in my mind, it almost like how you said, when you like, you're creating these AI pieces with obviously artificial intelligence, but you're talking about God, but you're saying like, it's almost like there's like a pulling from this, the Christian community, but also ones who are non-believers. Is it almost like, to me, would it be similar to like, say, if you're like a Christian, like creating art about like aliens or something, like it's almost like new agey? Like, is that why Christians are like, oh, that's kind of weird, or is it not the Christians you're getting the hate from? It's more so the other side.
There were some Christians who pushed back because of the loss, I think, the loss of humanity in the creative process, which, we believe is,
You got two haters now.
yeah, which is, I understand, because, as Christians, we believe that creativity is a human, like, made in the image of God activity, but then on the other side, it was mostly non-Christians. I didn't get overt hate from Christians on my
Okay.
my stuff, just passive hate.
Passive hate.
Passive hate. Yeah, I assume you get a lot of like, there's two camps, two ways for people to be controversial with Edward now. It is, I don't like AI art or this style, or I'm scared for my job, or I think robots are crazy. And then two is like, wait, you're a Christian? Like, I hate you kind of vibe, or stop pushing that on me kind of thing. So that's interesting to navigate. And yeah, and it's not like you said, it's not like you were trying to really like get like wave the flag and say, look at me, guys, and then it just kind of happened, and then you're left with this weird question that I was not expecting to really be a thing here, but it does make sense kind of backing into it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I would never even like, that wouldn't even cross my mind that would be an issue, but that's crazy.
All right, so here's one concept that I want to lean into and kind of hear, because Edward, you've explored the territory more. A lot of people are looking at the art that's coming out now, like the stuff you're doing, like the stuff I've kind of dabbled around and seen other places, where it's either, concept art for something, or it's this style of graphics. And they're really kind of getting plugged into like, oh, this is what AI art means. Like, this is the output that you get. And I'm looking at it as like, no, like, this is an expression of it right now, while us and the machine are in learning phase. Like, we are not far at all away from logo design. And frankly, like, I want to get in there and like try to say like, hey, can you do this style of like line art and do single color, simple stuff with it? And Edward, oh, spoiler alert, guys, later on in the episode, I'm actually going to have Edward walk me through. I signed up for MidJourney, I paid for the little deal, and I'm going to like have him like use my hands, tell me what to do to poop out some magic over here. So that's coming later in the show. But as I've been looking through this, I'm like, my brain immediately goes to like, okay, what does it look like once it's mature? Like, once the, like, same thing for like NFTs. Like, I'm not big in that world, but like what we see right now of that is not what it's actually going to be used for once it's adopted and like part of life. And so one of the things that somebody said in the Instagram responses is like a new stock illustration tool for brands, or like an Unsplash pixel killer, stock images reimagined. And then somebody else on Instagram was talking about how a lot of these big stock companies have already said like, we're gonna kill it if you throw any stuff up on there. Which also makes sense. They're being protective. They're clutching onto the thing too, the past a little bit too. But I think that regardless of whether or not iStock or Getty says you're allowed to do this or not, you're gonna have people like, hey, I've got a corporate company. I want a bunch of like abstract style photos with my product in them. And I can have my coffee mug float in space or on paper textures or whatever like situation you can imagine. Like, AI is going to be able to do that for you. And so they're not going to be buying stock images. There's going to be a lot of other ways to use this technology. And I know I'm being a little bit clumsy with the way that I'm kind of talking about how it could be used, but I'm just seeing it as a, I don't think that this is, we found the end or reached the zenith of AI art in terms of like output, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we want to talk like longest, I guess I'll start from like longest term. Okay, so like most mature version, I do think that, as creatives, we have ideas and then we use tools to bring them into the world, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, the thing is, over all of time, creatives will always have ideas and will always be trying to find ways to express them. Currently, we use Photoshop, InDesign, Illustrator, right? Photography, stuff like that. But all of those things that are just tools will be replaced by AI. We will have an idea, and then AI will be so easy and so convenient and so exact and so customizable, for all styles, for all deliverables, for all things that a creative can make: videos, animations, installations, things like that. Especially if you combine it with 3D printing, you can do most things very easily, which will then...
Dude, that's wild to think about.
Yeah, which will then, change from like, oh, graphic designers back in the day all used paper and all like cut the letters, the type
They
out
probably
of
thought Photoshop was cheating.
metal things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when Photoshop came out, now tons of people who didn't have access to special tools or special education or whatever,
or a room full of magazines and like space to like put everything together. Like all you need is a laptop and a coffee shop.
Exactly.
Is that cheating? Did that cheapen the craft? Some would argue yes, but I would say on a whole, inviting more people to the creative conversation is a good thing.
There are brand new things that are created that could never have been created before, like glitch stuff that did not exist before the digital world, but all that to say, like, I think that ultimately we're getting there, but I don't know how long or how fast it will take. I think it will be faster than we expect, but I do think there will be a ton of controversies on the way, ton of scandals. I mean, already right now, a problem that AI has to solve is the fact that it is sourcing inspiration from other people's work without permission.
Interesting.
Once that issue is solved, which it has to be, and it will be, because of how important of a technology AI is. After it gets to through a ton of those milestones, I think it will get to the point where we are just using that most of the time to create things. But even right now, like in the immediate now, like zooming back out from the future, Photoshop sky replacement feature, machine learning, that's AI. When you can use neural filters, right? You can like DH people, you can like make people smile, stuff like that's AI.
I haven't messed with any of that stuff.
Select subject, that's also AI.
Okay.
So it's already being integrated into the creatives tool set. I just think over time it'll make our lives easier and easier and easier. All of the tedious things that we have to do now, like for example, when you make a logo, you have to explore so much. That's like the bulk of the time, like figuring out, like coming up with the ideas and then exploring what is the best possible way to make this. Like if I move this a little like this, then I'm going to print that out and put that right next to this next one where it's moved over another millimeter. And like you're exploring all
like everybody's got that sheet at some point in the process, unless you hit pay dirt early, where it's like, here's like 16 versions of basically the same icon. And you just need to like see them all out there first. Like, what if there's like, all right, here's my initials. Here's like 4 inspiration pieces for art style. Like, okay, that's the one I need to like polish up and kind of refine.
Yeah.
And I think we are married to like me clicking a mouse, but I can't tell you how many times I've thought or said like, man, I just wish I could, like, it was doing like retinal scans and like connected to my brain and moving things as fast as I could think. And like, how much more creative are you when there's not that like millisecond delay between, concept and then being able to like actually see it play out. I know when they were, man, we are really geeking out today. When they were building early computers, the difference in the computer being successful is if they could get it under a certain like millisecond of speed, because then you don't realize you're using a computer after that certain speed that your brain functions at. So like that was when people would get like glued and sucked in, when they feel like it's instantaneous and it's responding as they're typing stuff or doing stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Interesting,
think the
yeah.
same thing, we've just always had it this way, where it's like, oh, there is no other way other than me draw the circle, then see what it looks like. What if it's like, boom, there's a circle and it's got the shapes in it. And then what do I like it? Oh, next one.
Yeah. And I really believe like, I know we're like extremely philosophical so far, but
I was not expecting that this time, but I guess I should have. We're talking about the future.
I really believe that there is so much that we can create that the world has not seen yet. That the only reason we haven't seen it yet is because we are so limited by the friction that comes from using the tools that we have now. Like, for example, what you just said.
You keep like recapping this stuff in nice, tidy little tweets. Like, that was fantastic. That was so eloquent. Very well put, Edward. I'm just like, and you kind of get the point of it. Edward's like, yeah, here's what you meant to say. And I'm like,
No,
exactly.
But like what you were just saying about how like we used to have to like draw, and then I really think if we don't have to, if it doesn't take time to explore all of the ideas that we have for logos, like if we just think, hey, what does it look like if this word, like the hole in this A was like an orange or something, like, and I explored all the possible things in like one query or like in 5 minutes, then I can the overall quality, I think, of all of the work has the potential to increase a ton. And I also think the overall, like, just like with imperfections of the digital age came this like whole glitch design trend and whole design language surrounding that, and like user interface things. AI will also introduce its own like imperfections,
like undriven
and
snow. Like, what does that look like for AI art?
Yeah,
that's great.
Exactly. So I really feel like it'll open the door for us, and I think it'll do a lot. And I also don't think like it's exclusive to art. I think it's going to change. Everything across the board. But
same thing for like NFTs. Like, everybody's talking about like the Ape Yacht Club or whatever. And like that, like that's NFTs. Like, no, NFTs are going to be like tickets to get into things, and like it's going to be like tied into more like QR codes. Everybody's like, oh, this is how you like fill up the menu for the restaurant. Like, that's a use for it, but people use it. They've been using it in like Lowe's and Home Depot for years to like handle a lot more like data driven stuff. So, but yeah, I think I completely agree with you. Like, we're going to have some costs. Like, there's going to be some things we lose along the way, like using the analogy of like paper versus iPad. I grew up on iPad. And I think that the fact that I can double click or double tap and it erases and I could restart and like try stuff, that has tremendously helped me have more confidence and learn faster and iterate faster. Now, are there some like advantages to knowing all the different like nub sizes for pens and like true calligraphy art? Yeah, absolutely. And did I like shortcut that part of the learning? For sure. But could I go back and learn it later? Or, if it's a pass fail thing, then I'm just out. I'm not drawing, right? And I think the same thing is true for this and any technology here.
Yeah.
Another one, and I think you kind of touched on it, that Josh Lauder mentioned, is a bridge between design styles, especially like international stuff or things that are like super far removed. And I think that's another interesting thought, is like nobody's taking the time, except like true artists sometimes, to like mash up this thing and this thing. Like, what if you're like, it's Saturday afternoon, what do these things look like together? And that's how you unearth some of that potentially like glitch style, like uncharted territory stuff that you were talking about.
Yeah, I agree. I think, I mean, it's really amazing because the AI art that I've been making, I would never be able to make. Like, even if I saw it and I tried to make it myself, I can't.
It
Mm.
feels like a Renaissance painting that would take
Yeah.
a master like 3 months to paint. And
Yeah.
instead you're like, this is my Instagram post today, right? Like that's at some level, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I think, you know, just because of how easy it is, like I said earlier, like it's just going to allow people to create things that could never have been created before.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good. And the other thing that I think in terms of like because I grew up in an environment where I never thought that a creative career was even like a thing. Like I didn't think it was
Mm.
possible for me.
Mm.
And then I didn't even know about graphic design until I was almost done with college. I didn't know it was a field that existed.
Wow.
And so, and like, you know, now that I was struggling with like what I want to do with my life. And then when I found it, like everything made sense to me, you know?
Mm.
And to me, it's like, there are so many people in the world who probably believe they're good at nothing, or they're aimless in life, or they don't feel like like the society, like in the working 9 to 5 system has failed
Yeah.
them or whatever. When in reality, it's just the fact that the technology is not accessible enough to people, you know?
Yeah.
We don't know that these people are gifted at these things because you have to have a powerful laptop to be a graphic designer. You have to pay Creative Cloud a ridiculous amount of money every year
Mm.
to even be able to work at an industry standard, you know? And I think, you know, being able to put more of this in the hands of people who wouldn't have access before, or wouldn't have the like
Yeah.
years and years of training to, like, when you grow up as a kid, being able to draw and learn to draw, do art classes, and like by the time you're an adult, you're an excellent illustrator.
Sure.
To some degree, it's because you had a stable life, you know?
Mm.
You're able to not worry about a lot of the things that are required for survival, which most of the world actually still does. And so I think, like, from a social, this is still very philosophical, but
We have to do
from
another
a social
philosophical
level,
talk.
you know, it has the potential to be used for great good.
Yeah.
But also, you know, everything that can be used for great good can be used for great evil.
I love that, because that's actually a thought that I had. Like you said, like people who don't have access to these tools that we have to do that could try AI and use that creative muscle. But even like for people, maybe they do have access to it, but maybe they're just not creative with, say, their hands or whatever, but maybe they're like a writer, or they have creative thoughts and they think that way. Like that's just another outlet for them to create something. Like maybe they can't physically do it, but they have the words to say that some of us don't. And that's
interesting.
You know, like I think that's another cool way for people even to glorify God and to use that creative muscle that he's put in us, but in a different way, you know?
Yeah.
Yo, it's wild you mentioned that, Ash, because the first person that I heard about this from is a copywriter. It's not a designer or an artist or like a Bitcoin bro or whatever. Like it's a copywriter in marketing. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, I want to take a quick second I know, Edward, like part of the show, you're going to show me how to do it for real. But I'm going to show you what I'm currently up against in the logo space for AI art generated logos. So while we get the conversation going, I've got app.logo.com pulled up. If you guys aren't familiar, there's other tools like this. I think GoDaddy has done
like GoDaddy.
something similar before, but I want to see like what they can do for my business, because this is a little known fact. I kind of hate my logo. Like I don't love it. The cobbler's children have no shoes. Like I do not like my logo. So I would love to know if I could just like have something crap out. I'm going to skip this logo.
Your logo is dope. I just want you to know.
I
just want you to hear that from another person.
That's sweet, Edward.
I mean, it's okay. I'm just kidding. It's cool.
It is okay, Ashley.
I'm just kidding. It's better than my logo for sure. For sure.
It does. It serves a function, but I think I see how much like excitement and magic I feel about client stuff. And then I'm like, I do not at all feel that way about this.
Yeah.
So my field is graphic design. I'm curious. I guess if I said like I'm a gardener, it would have like hoes and rakes and leaves in it or something. You got to go with the
yellow
yellow.
says bright under it, so I mean, you have to go with that one.
All right, this one's interesting. I feel like I'm probably bold because I'm not trying to recreate my current logo. I'm trying to see like, what does Robot Boy think that I look like? Would it be quirky? I definitely got some funky stuff. Not elegant.
Maybe bubbly a little bit. A little bubbly.
Little bubbly. Bold and bubbly.
Oh no, I'm worried.
I'm
worried
not
about the result.
I am too.
This is kind of interesting. Like, this is kind of interesting though, because I know, like, for me, if I'm creating something for myself, like say a logo or whatever, like that's the hardest thing for me to do. Like, I won't do it. Like, it's like, I don't know why.
All
like,
right.
I don't know if you guys are the same.
Yes.
But maybe I need to just do something like this and just easily just be like, okay, make it for me. And I don't want to pay. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I was this close to hiring a buddy of mine to redo my logo like 3 years ago because I was like, I'm too close to it. Like, I cannot pick. Because especially when you're doing it something like this, like, yes, Bright Coal has like a mission and values and is a business. It's not me, but it's a blurry line, right?
Yeah.
You're trying to like capture what the world likes about you and put that into a thing here.
Yeah.
Modern is such a vague word, I think. I don't know.
See, you're already like questioning it right now. Like,
I'm doing this. I'm definitely not thin. I'm not classy, not elegant. Handwritten means different things to different people. We're gonna rock and roll with it. Create a style. I definitely got to have an icon with my name.
Yeah.
Coal Bright.
Bright. What would we say? Pleasant, radiant, self-luminous, dazzling.
Wow.
Give me some more. I do like this from like because I do this in meetings where I'm kind of like extracting stuff from a client. Like, I'm showing them logos. Like, what do you think about these in this style? And like, what are some words you would use? And what are some visual ideas? And like, I basically do this for people and just hopefully have a better output than
bead-like.
Bead-like? Beady.
Yeah, what's that?
Effulgent. Man, what does this mean? Effulgent. Shining brightly, radiant. I'm definitely effulgent then. I reached my max
effulgent call.
Yeah, there's only 3.
All right, bright, effulgent. You know, let's keep going here. Let's just rock and roll. What do we got? Okay.
What is that? It's a thing of coal.
It is coal. It's
a coal car. Maybe we shouldn't have.
They nailed the brief.
I want you to make one of mine. Can you do one of mine after?
Oh, absolutely. All right. So this is interesting. We got the little for my icon.
It's
like
basically your logo.
Bright things. Yeah. I got diamonds. Not. I mean, I don't like that the line weight is like thinner on that midline.
Oh yeah, that's strange.
What in God's green earth is this? That's what you can say, quirky. Who knows?
Maybe.
I'm a crazy guy. All right. All right. So frankly, I was expecting a little better than this.
Wow.
I like the mystery in the
Walmart,
the negative
Walmartness.
Yeah.
The Walmart-esque. Why are they so big on this like blue and yellow scheme here though? That's fascinating. It's like a purpley blue actual coal.
That's hilarious.
Same font, different color.
It is actually the same.
But you get what you pay for. This.
What?
Wow.
Winner. Santa's coal sock.
And I mean, it also got the steam coming out of it.
That's hilarious. It looks almost like a. Why does it have steam on the coal?
I don't know, but
it's radiant.
Looks like a poo. Right, so what happens? I can customize this. You
can choose the
colors. You can change out your colors.
Wow.
You can see it on the mock-ups.
How much does this cost? Or is this a free thing?
I think it's free.
Okay.
How do I go back to? I'm not ready to make a decision. Don't.
But
it makes you buy it.
I feel like they have like a library of
they're just kind of cycling you through the stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you a bunch of people generate from this, it'll look like the same eventually.
The sock.
Light bulb. All right, so here's my thing though. Like, imagine there's some pretty dope stuff in like creative market, which we talked about last episode. I like that, just the square. But imagine like the quality of stuff that this robot is like scraping is 17 times better. Like, what if this is a really good looking little coal car? And what if you have access to the same fonts that are available in Canva and Adobe? Like, They may not be the best of the best, but there's a lot of really strong stuff in there. This is like scraping for like free fonts that are royalty free or like free of like licenses and stuff, and little like crappy icons. And it's doing the best that it can with. I'm feeling baffled by some of the choices here, though.
I think you should
It's
put
doing the
that
best that it
salt
can
on
with
a
the
mug.
ingredients. I mean, it's something I tell clients all the time. It's like, I need the ingredients to make like better ingredients, better pizza, bright coal. Like you gotta, the better like stuff that we're pulling in from like the conceptual like idea and story, like the mouthfeel of the name and how long it is, and then like the ideas that we generate together, looking at inspiration pieces, like those all go into making the magic sauce here. And if this poor robot has only terrible ingredients, like you've given it spam and chocolate and like, wasabi, like what do you expect to get out of that? Like make me a great meal. Oh, robot, you failed. You know what I'm saying? Like what happens if this thing's way smarter, and has better ingredients? Like, I don't know. It could be some really cool stuff in here.
It's crazy.
So far, not quite good enough, dude.
Yeah.
I was saying,
All right.
I know you were looking for coffee mug designs, but you should put that sock on one of them. That'd be hilarious.
I did screenshot it because I definitely need that one to go out in the world. And I think there are better ones than this out there.
Yeah.
And I know like 99 Designs is kind of like a version of that. Like I shouldn't say it's not robot. It's still human beings, but it is people who don't care, just cranking stuff out. Like they're not measuring, they're not trying super hard. They're just like volume based type of deal here. But guys, I do want to actually make some artwork with our boy Edward here.
Yeah.
So this MidJourney, there's a couple other ones out there. But this is one that I see a lot of people using. Edward, what are like the other players in the market that people should be considering? Or do you say, hey, just try this one out first? This is kind of the best that's available right now.
Yeah, I think MidJourney is the lowest barrier to entry.
Okay.
I think Dolly would be the other big one.
That's the one I've heard of. How do you spell it?
I think it's open Dolly, open AI, DALLE. Like, yeah.
You know what
but
yeah,
this one is invite only, which is difficult. You have to sign up for the wait list and then wait for them to invite you. But it is very powerful.
Wow.
Then there's also like Stable Diffusion, which is actually open source. So these other players are actually incorporating the Stable Diffusion technology into their machine learning algorithm as well. So you'll see some of this Stable Diffusion technology in the MidJourney algorithm, which is actually how the faces with MidJourney have gotten so good recently.
Okay.
Because in the beginning, human faces looked
pretty scary.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, so I would say MidJourney is the best place to start if you're brand new and you're a designer.
Yeah, that is that's super cool. So I'm gonna skip the sign up setup steps because I've already done that. Edward has a fantastic video that walks you through all the steps of that. I'm going to try and drop a link down. And I think with not Instagram, with YouTube, you can actually I can tag your YouTube account. And I just say @EdwardCreates and people can like click over that way too. But yeah, I'll definitely have a link to this. This is a great succinct, like your videos are fantastic, dude. Like they're succinct. You are educated on the topics. Like you don't wander around the thing. You got everything broken into nice chapters as always. So this video is like all of the others. Great way to just get you set up into the point where I'm about to start our journey here.
Yes. Hey, real quick before you guys start, I'm going to hop out because I have to go run to our kids' field trip. But Edward, it was great having you. And I'm super pumped to see what you guys come up with to watch this video afterwards.
I love it, Ash. Thanks for coming.
All right. Later.
Peace.
All right. So I've got it connected to my Discord, and fair warning, guys, I am also like not like whatever the opposite of a power user is. That's me with Discord. Like I am loosely familiar. I've used Slack plenty of times. This feels similar.
It is, yeah, very similar.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming in at. I've seen some of this stuff, and I did also, like I said, I've paid for the $10 a month thing. if I understand correctly, you don't have to do that by any stretch, but I just didn't want to like kill the video today because we had to wait on something or buy credits or whatever to get something going.
Yeah, so you get 25 free credits, but you cannot use the images that you generate from the free credits for commercial purposes.
Gotcha. Like this is what I like. A lot of people say like, oh, like this is what AI art is, like crazy stylescapes, and this is the type of stuff like back in the day. This is a job. Like you spend hours and hours becoming excellent at this, whether you're selling prints or whatever else. And I think that it is going to be interesting for that crew and like how they navigate the world moving forward. But like
concept artists for like movies, video games, they are first on the chopping block.
Yeah, or at least like the lower tier guys. Like I think that the truly like visionary people or people who have relationships. Like I think that in any mature market like filmmaking and stuff, like they're used to doing things. They've got budget set aside. They're like, I'm not going to mess with something experimental because we just need this thing done correctly. So I think that you got pretty. But I love this stuff too, where it's like photorealistic and just kind of like what in the world is going on.
So if you paid for it, you should actually have access to something, the community view, which if you go to like on a separate tab, midjourney.com, and then you like log in or go to gallery, I think might be the one, or sign in with Discord. Yeah. It'll take you to a
community showcase.
Yeah, so you can actually view.
Holy smokes!
Now, the cool thing about when you have a subscription, I'm not sure if on the left side, the left bar, do you see like I think that second icon is the one I'm looking for on the top. Community you can actually search for any word. So like if you wanted to search for, I don't know what's something that shrimp. Then you'll see like all of the generations from the community that use the word shrimp.
What in the world?
Yeah, that's fascinating. And then you can actually highlight or hover over it, and then you'll see
this. This is quite disturbing.
That is insane.
All right, so have you seen the TikTok of the guy like trying to like he gives the I think he uses Dolly, or he uses several of them, but he tries to put like yucky food items together. Like he like he'll put them together and like see what it comes back with, and he uses like all kinds of great terms that make it feel like super high end minimalist like fancy chef's plates. Of like stick of butter and raw meat and shrimp or like Skittles or whatever, and like see what it comes back with. It's
crazy.
That's fun, but that's if anything kind of poking fun at this industry, not necessarily embracing. So not that this is my favorite thing on the screen, but this is most interesting to me to explore because it's flatter, it's simpler, it's very different like art style than some of that photorealistic or kind of HD stuff.
You'll see in the prompt under that one that you just clicked on, you'll see at the end of that prompt, it said pop art.
Art
style. So this
right
is
over
really,
here. Gotcha.
This is really the key to
this is where some of that human stuff comes in. Everybody keeps talking about like, and I glossed over that, like in the Instagram thing, the overwhelming thing I got over and over again was like, yes, it's going to be a tool in the tool belt, but like it will never replace that human spark. And I agree with that. And that's kind of what we're getting into today is like, okay, how do we use the tool then? Like let's pretend Edward and Josh are really smart, creative designers with great ideas. How does that express through this?
Yeah. So the key thing that I recommend for getting the best results is using this. Like if you have an idea in your mind that you want to generate, use this search function to look for one of the keywords of something that you're trying to look for. So for me, I've looked up like creation or like space. And then I basically scroll through and then the ones that stick out to me, either in style or in...
Did you mean shrimp? It's got more shrimp stuff still in here. The ones that stick out to you, you pull them up and look at their terms.
Yeah, look at the prompt, and then I kind of can glean like what they said that led to what result or what part of that.
Yeah.
And then through looking at a ton of them, I actually like bring them all together.
So like this is interesting to me, like where it feels painted, but it's also still pretty detailed.
Yeah, so then I would
Engine.
probably look at this and try like retro sci-fi.
Mike Mignola.
And you can actually see, excuse me, that they used an image prompt. If you scroll down,
It's not letting me scroll down. I don't know what's going on here. Let's refresh. That's the same image, isn't it?
So you see how there's a link in the middle?
Ah, right here. Okay.
Yeah, that is probably a link to another image.
Huh. That feels pretty far afield from what we just looked at.
Yeah, so you know, you can prioritize different terms. If you want to look back at it, like yeah, these are like sorry.
I would say like the tone of the art style is similar. Like I could see both of these up in the same shop together, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of like, and maybe that's how he's got it referenced is AK retro dark vintage sci-fi. This is a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean
2D matte dark.
It's very common to have this many words.
You said uncommon or common?
Common. It's common.
Okay, so this is how you do the thing. And this is where you're like this sucks for Josh. I have a pretty in some ways like poor or like haphazard design vocabulary. Like when I'm on conversation or like meetings with clients, we're pointing at pictures and like mapping our own words onto those things. Like ovular is one of them that came out the other day. You know, like I don't know what the real word is, but we're talking about, hey, that feels really Target, right? Like I can't put feels kind of Target-y vibes in here. Like you have to know the actual name of the originators of different art styles or like type families to be able to like leverage this thing well.
Yeah, and that's where you'll be able to use this community feed to help you
Get educated.
Like what it sounds like, because I also don't know. I didn't know that was called pop art until I saw that. But
and when you say pop art, like I'm thinking like some pretty specific artist and pieces, like and like you got some of these that look like true like photographs, right? And then other ones that feel like, you know, like this, like you told me this on Unsplash. I'd be like, yeah, of course that's an Unsplash photo.
Yeah. But it's a very interesting prompt.
Yeah, that's cool. National Park Dark Sky. So this is fascinating. Let's go ahead and jump in. Like we've got some level of inspiration here, but oh man, he's so shiny and cool. I will say, like, if you're in the industry of like, I make Daft Punk covers and like, you know, like DJ stuff a lot, like, and because I feel like they're always looking for some like otherworldly, like wild concept art. Like, we're going to see a lot more of that showing up over the next year. And like somebody else said on Instagram a while back, like we're going to see a glut of sermon series artwork for those of us in church space of for like, you know, biblical, biblical Old Testament stuff that before was like, do you want a Dore print like overlaid on your crazy colors, or do you want nothing? Like those are the options. I'm not painting that for you, right?
Yeah.
All right, so walk me through. Let's just make something cool that is on trend for this right now. Let's try to do like a parting of the Red Sea or a parting of ocean type of thing.
Okay. Let's click jump to present so we can go to the bottom. And then in order to prompt the bot, so I think what would be most helpful is if you hovered over the MidJourney icon of the last message that it sent in this channel.
Right here, new mentions.
Like in this newbies channel, you know how the MidJourney bot is sending messages? So just hover over the profile picture of the MidJourney bot.
Got it. This guy
on it, and then go to message MidJourney bot, and then just say like hi or something. And then
now it's my little channel with him.
Now we can do it in here.
For
So
her.
we don't have to like keep scrolling back and forth to find ours.
Love it. Okay.
And then you can type /imagine.
What about image? But just don't do what you said.
And then, so I actually did this as well. I tried to create Moses parting the sea.
Okay.
It proved to be one of the most difficult things.
Perfect. Let's do this. Let's do two of my favorite visual things. Let's do space in the ocean. Like, what does like the night sky look like undersea in the ocean?
Yeah, let's so just type in exactly what you just said. So like, yeah, night sky under the sea, ocean.
I need to like put commas between these, or just
No,
type
just
out
you can
words.
just write night sky under sea, ocean. Did you
Let's
want
say
like
moody, inspiring, or like beautiful?
Yeah, beautiful.
And I've seen you and other people do like HD, but do I save that for like other edit rounds, or go ahead and like throw that kind of stuff in now?
So I think it would be interesting. So like, if you want something that's very creative, like you can actually control how much creative freedom you give the AI. So usually for something that's like vaguely specific, but you kind of want to see how the AI interprets it, we can use the stylize parameter. So you want to type in 2 hyphens, one after another, and then stylize, and then colon. And then if you turn it up to like 20,000, then that will actually give it more creative freedom. And if you wanted, like, for example, if you wanted one of these words to have more weight than another, then you can also control that. But if you want, we can go ahead and just
I want to go ahead and hit enter with this and just see what we get back with just like human words, and then we'll kind of mess with some levers here in a second.
Sounds good. Oh,
we need to accept our terms of service. Bing bong. So now it's waiting to start.
So now it's going to start. And then it takes maybe like 30 seconds, 15 to 30 seconds for it to go through.
Starts rendering.
Yeah. And you can also, there's just a lot of parameters you can also control. Like you can ask it to record a time lapse of it creating it.
Oh, cool.
You can ask it to use a different algorithm. If you're going to have a face, then there is another like parameter to put in. But I mean, this is already looking pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is cool. I feel like only one of these is actually under the water, though. Maybe this bottom right one is.
Yeah, it's true.
Is there a way to get this thing bigger or something?
Yeah, so we're going to want to wait for it to be completely done, and then you can click on it.
Okay. And we're done now?
Yeah, it's done.
Well, this is like teaching Grandpa how to use the open the email where?
And so if you wanted to upscale them, that's another command.
Yeah.
But right here is just for us to.
We're still kind of picking, right? Like we're in early
composition. It looks like the top left one is also underwater.
Yeah.
I guess just because there's stars, it looks like it's.
I think bottom right is my favorite. And I asked for a whale. I don't see any whales in these. Granted, it was one of 15 words, but all right. So bottom right is pretty cool to me. What do I do here?
So you have 2 options. So you can either ask for variations, which will give you 4 variations that are like really similar to one of these,
or upscale,
or you can upscale one of them. So
and that would be like refine this, make it even cooler. And I'm going to do
like make it bigger, add
V4.
more detail. So you're going to have to click U4.
Thanks.
If you want to upscale it, it has to be U4. V4.
No, I want to see more of this.
Okay, then yeah, V4.
Because I don't feel like I got quite enough undersea options yet.
Yeah, but
you can just call me Pop Pop anytime I start mistyping or clicking the wrong thing.
Good. When you get variations, they're going to be very similar, like almost identical, but they're going to have slight variations.
Interesting. Okay. Because I would have thought like I'm kind of rolling the dice again, keep that one the same. Oh, this one got sealed. That's got a.
Yeah, it looks like there's some animals in there. And that one was fast. So this one's done actually.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. Like this one feels like
And
we're above the water. I'm going with the top left.
yeah, and if you want to upscale it, it'll actually add more detail as it's upscaling, not just make it bigger. So
Okay.
you can
So we'll
click
go to U1 then
U1.
to upscale that one.
Yeah, that's right.
And then what if I say, all right, now that I've seen it, I want to like increase the randomness or like add more elements? Like what is there any way to do that? Or at this point, are we like totally in refine mode?
So you can start your prompt over,
Oh, okay.
or you can actually use an image prompt using one of your results.
Interesting.
But that might be a little complicated, but we could do it.
No, that's I want to kind of go through this one more time with you. Like, so I've kind of made a lot of the choices here. I want like Edward to do the inputs on this next one, going for the same goal of like wild, like if Owl City was making an album cover and it was underwater, like what does that look like, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I want Edward, like you've got whatever his name is, Adam, whatever, on the phone. He's like, Edward, you have 13 minutes to make me a new album cover using MidJourney, and it's undersea. What are you doing?
All right. Yeah, we can do that.
This is what's fascinating to me about this too, is like the way that the robot is processing the world. All of these look like animals or like
Yeah.
creatures or as at least some kind of like plant life. But then if you actually look at it, none of them are defined like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a plant, oh, that's a whale thing. Like it just like what it evokes the feeling of
Yeah, it's like
an object.
it's like
That's
what you
interesting.
imagine when you remember something.
Yeah.
You know?
That's not to get philosophical again, but I remember a C.S. Lewis talking about how like when you're reading something in a book or listening to somebody describe something, your mind is not empty and it's not seeing words fly across a screen. It's imagining like that object floating in black space, and it's like you're having like mental snapshots of a thing. That's kind of like what this feels like. You're in a dream where it's kind of
Yeah.
fuzzy. You're ignoring everything that's not essential and focal.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. All right. So it's Edward's turn. Owl City's on the phone and needs the most crazy fantasy undersea space art you can imagine in 10 minutes. What you got?
Yeah, I'd probably type in under, so I'm on my screen researching in the community feed.
Okay.
I would probably type in underwater.
Oh wait, I gotta do imagine.
Oh yeah,
Underwater.
Underwater, blue water. We'll put like a comma between underwater and blue, and then
Does that separate the like thoughts?
I actually I think it does. It actually does.
Okay.
I think someone asked it in the FAQ and they said that is what it's supposed to do, whether it does or not. Is it kind of random?
And guys, if you've got any questions or things along the way, feel free to drop them down in the comments. We see those here live in the chat.
I would probably write dramatic light rays.
Ooh.
Let's see, maybe.
It's another thing that's interesting about this. Like when you're learning to draw, like you're learning to see. Because in my mind's eye, like I saw light rays, but I didn't write that down. Right. And so you're like taking inventory of like what things are evoking the feelings.
Mm-hmm. And then maybe after underwater, I would put sanctuary, underwater sanctuary.
And that'll create like more of like a little scene, if you were, where it's like a focal point.
Yeah, I think that's the goal. We'll see what actually happens. And then ultra realistic. And let's see. I think I would want to turn up the stylize for this, so I'd probably want to do
--- stylize
:20,000.
No space.
No comma, but you can. Yeah, that's fine. Was there? There's no space between the dashes and stylized, right? Just making sure.
Might be. Yeah, it's mashed up.
And then I think what I would also want to do is what I really like is Studio Ghibli style. So
Ooh,
we'll type in style.
I spelled Ghibli right.
That's right. I would try I think we would have to write like Studio Ghibli style, the actual word.
Style.
And then I think I would move
These are those little nuances that you pick up after like doing it a few times. Like, oh, it doesn't know who that is. Like when you want it to follow an art style.
And then we would want to probably move that before the stylized parameter.
So the order of these matters?
I believe so. And then remove that extra comma. And I think we should be
run
good.
this puppy?
Yeah, I think we can go for it.
Invalid parameter. I messed up the stylize. Did I spell something wrong?
I must have told you something wrong. Let me double check here.
I'm going to grab all that stuff again.
Let's see. Parameters. Oh, that's weird. Oh, there's no colon. It's just stylized space and then the value.
Got it.
Sorry. It's kind of like we're coding.
This is that. For those of you that have not been in code world, this is kind of exactly how this works. One little tiny thing breaks it, and then you spend 30 minutes trying to figure out what did it. All right, I'm excited about this.
I hope it's good. I can't really predict how it's going to behave.
Well, that's part of the fun too. Is you're just like, ooh, what's going to happen?
And
I like that aspect of it.
They update the algorithm frequently, so you could do it one day and it could be completely different another day.
I think I like that too, where yes, it's a robot doing it, and that's where everybody feels like it's cheaper or like it's less special. Does AI know specific people? Like if I told it to do a portrait of Josh Whiting, that's an excellent question. My guess is no, because it's not smart enough yet. But I think that once we're living in minority port world where it's like Google searching.
Well, you can do that now with celebrities, and it will do it.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So we've got.
This is looking pretty cool. It is looking very Studio Ghibli. I'll say that.
It is. And I'm sure if you like do the HD upscale sharpen thing, like it's going to go even more. What's interesting is these feel a lot more like trees than, maybe it's because you said sanctuary.
Maybe. I think it's also because Studio Ghibli landscapes are heavy on trees. It might be because of that. It might be, I don't know, a variety of things.
The other thing that's interesting is like thinking about like as you get, I'm imagining 15 years from now where everybody's got their like personal AI, where like I've fed a bunch of my style and ideas into it, and I'm like Iron Man in the garage, like, hey Jarvis, like do this thing, and it's like, yes sir, like, and I know Mr. Whiting, like the way that you normally build out your logo files, like it's going to be much more tailored experience, even if it doesn't talk to you.
Yeah.
But like right now, it's kind of feels like, like robots over there on the fence, and we're like throwing stuff over and like whispering through the fence, and it's like, is this what you want? And like we neither one of us know each other yet, and until the robot becomes sentient and kills us all.
Absolutely, that would be the end. But I think
until then, let's make some art.
I think like right now, what they're trying to do is get as many people as possible to train it so that when it creates something, it'll always create something that most people think is beautiful. Like the appeal to the lowest common denominator.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
All right. So what's our next step here? You're not ready to send this to Owl City
Oh
Boy
yeah,
yet.
yeah. I'll probably
The clock's ticking, man.
I'm thinking number 2 is very interesting to me in terms of, Owl City vibe. So let's
Okay. So
go
we're doing U2.
let's go upscale 2, yeah. And then we'll have to wait for that. And then there is another upscale step after this. So
About to ask, is there more levers to pull after you've done your initial generation, or is it all just like upscale more, upscale different? Like,
yeah, once you do your first generation, that's pretty much what you're working with. So if you
okay,
want
so
to
you
change
really there's a
something, then you would want to tweak, like you would copy the original prompt and then change some words there, and then
okay. And then I've seen you also pull stuff into Photoshop. With the type of stuff that you're doing where you're like highlighting clouds and like extending the scene out a bit.
Yeah.
What other things are you doing in Photoshop to really just make these things magical?
Yeah, so the Moses parting the sea one that I posted about. There was actually a dude there originally, but he didn't have an arm or a staff.
Which
It's
would
going to
make
be the
him
one.
scary and inaccurate.
Yeah, it's going to be the one next to the Wrath of God one. The one with the blue water.
Oh, right here. Yeah, obviously the ocean parting would be the one.
So I, typed in all this information. It gave me some options with people, but I really wanted like dramatic from the bottom.
Dude, like these are so cool right away.
Yeah, I like the bottom right one a lot. But then I was like, okay, number 1, there's 3 dudes in here. Not what I'm going for. And then number 2, I want a staff. So I went in and I removed those people, and then I drew in his arm and staff with all the highlights and everything. And then extended the clothing to make it look realistic. And then that's how I ended up with the final result. So, and then of course I colored everything. So
yeah, that is a muscle that I am not so great with, is color grading and doing those types of things. All right, so this is what we've got though for our Studio Ghibli meets Owl City.
Yeah,
Ghibli.
I feel like this is super cool already.
Yeah, it is cool.
I would just go ahead and upscale again.
Yeah, I was about to say, so you send it over like, hey, here's what I've got. I know I only have 4 minutes left on my timer. Upscale, redo, beta upscale, redo, upscale to max, make variations from this. Like, what do you new remaster?
I've actually never tried the remaster yet. We could try that.
That's or what I want to do.
Upscale to max. You can actually click
the territories, baby.
You can click multiple options and then it'll actually run them both for you.
Ooh.
Upscale to max is the regular way to do it, which adds detail, which I think would be interesting to see for this.
And I want to make variations too, because Josh is indecisive. What is it telling me? Josh, you're spending all your money in 4 prompts.
Because it's a machine.
Or computer.
We ask it for as much as we want. Well, this is really interesting.
So which one is this? This is the downside of doing this. Is it just...
That's a remaster. That one is being upscaled. Sorry. So as it makes progress, it like sends a newer message. So it's going to be like switching back and forth frequently.
All right. So here's another scenario where I think this is fantastic. Is let's say I am an electronic musician or indie artist. Like I'm a basement artist, basically. Like I do a lot of writing at my house. I have a subscription model for how I'm releasing stuff. I do 1 single every month and then a full album at the end of the year. And I've got a very avid user base. I don't play any shows. Like you've got a very odd thing. It's all DIY. You got some decent studio stuff. And rather than going like, dang, like this thing is not generating enough money for like, I got to eat, I can't just spend all my money on art. But this would allow that person to like get really into a mood for the music and spend an afternoon doing this. And since it's an ongoing conversation, not some big like keystone moment in their release process, this is a good way to capture that and have some really like interesting things out in the world and still function as a musician here.
Absolutely.
All right. So these are my
this looks like your variations. If you scroll down
I hate all of these way
Oh,
more.
actually, these are the variations.
These are the variations. These are the remaster.
I believe this is the remaster, and then
I don't understand what remaster does, but that's fine. Let's look at the variations. So what I do like is these feel more underwater.
mhm,
You know, like they got some bubbles in this one.
mhm.
And I think that might be a Photoshop move. Like, this is so stinking cool. Is if I had like two little fun fish, little pops of color, right? And then like more bubbles, then
So
that will really sell the underwater deal.
if you scroll all the way down, I believe there is a upscale to max that has the most detail out of all of them.
Oh, I was looking at a poopier version. This is super nice, man.
Yeah,
And like it just is begging for a
I
title
agree.
block up in there. Like I could either see something really understated, like little tiny down the corner, or like huge fat letters in the middle.
Mhm.
I could see it going a bunch of different ways, and that's usually a good sign, at least in the design process when you're in Photoshop. Is like once you have a mood there, or it's like, you know, if you're drawing a character and it has a voice all of a sudden, like you're pretty much done. But
Yeah.
oh man, that's super cool. All right, I want to do one last thing before we wrap up today. I know we've covered a lot of ground. We've philosophized. We've laughed at robots. We've cried with robots. Now I want to. I talked about this early, and I think it's still early in the conversation in terms of AI. But I want to make a logo in here, or at least elements I could use in a logo. So extremely simple line work that is interesting. And I don't know what prompts to do, but
Yeah, what I would encourage you to do is search in the community feed. Um,
I see a common thread here, guys. Our sage guide on the MidJourney here keeps telling us go look up the crap that you want to do, Josh. Say logo. Is that too simple? Because I'm not truly looking for a logo. I'm looking for an element of a logo.
yeah,
These are
so
yucky. That one's cool.
I'm seeing a lot of
Corn
interesting. people are amazing.
All right, I'm gonna do cactus illustration stipple. Maybe that's too specific. Simple icon line art. So these are still a little more like illustration vibes. That's kind of in there, but it's also not great. Fire icon. It's something that's probably got more options going on.
Yeah, I think what you're able to do here is do some explorations without spending any of your prompts.
Yeah.
There's some
It's like the other thing is this might not be the right art style, but like if I could get back a bunch of different like variations, like, oh, that's a cool way to present fire. And then knowing that I'm going to go back in it over in Illustrator or Procreate or whatever, and like sketch over the top of this.
Yeah.
But this is basically, again, like cranking out ideas. I'm not looking to go take this thing and then put it into a brief or
That's right.
like this is early concept phase.
Yeah, right now I think it's great for brainstorming, exploring ideas, iterating on like compositions, stuff like that, mood boarding. But it's definitely not good enough to where we can like present it to a client yet.
Rise says, while the AI is doing things, you really do have to know what to tell it to get what you want. And yeah, and that totally makes sense. Like there's clearly a reason Edward's account is blown up because he's got some killer like prompts and stuff that he's extracting good things out of it. So it's not the tool is sophisticated, but it's not the magic sauce either. And I do think,
it's
you know, like you'll have down the road, you'll have this plugged into like marketing and like advertising platforms where they're like, hey, we're just going to like roll through 18 different background colors for this banner ad and see which one plays better. And like, oh, like which illustration style sells more cookies, you know, and they don't care about the arts, the craft of the thing. They don't care about the humans involved in making the thing. They're just trying to like sell some cookies. Right.
Right.
So that will be like one soulless version of it. But for us, like designers, like you're saying, like we're not trying to hand this thing to somebody. One that feels weird. Two, the quality's not there yet, but
yeah.
All right. Yeah, so I'm a little stumped as to what to do for how do I get a bunch of like, let's say, Shiba icon. There, okay. So you've got some stuff in terms of like layouts.
Yeah, and there are some
Try
things.
3 noses.
Yeah. some ideas where you won't find something just because other people haven't looked for that exact thing yet.
Yeah. So I was trying to find like stuff that people have done before.
Yeah.
And Dolly, I was talking to my copywriter buddy that introduced me to this universe. I think in that one you can upload like examples, like basically give it samples. But so in addition to any like text prompts, you can give it, this is the art style, this is the object, like go kind of thing. Is that right?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard that Dali can do that. But there are a lot of tools using Stable Diffusion where you can actually upload like a line art, like for example, of a shoe. And then it'll take that and turn it into it'll like render it into a real shoe. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's super cool. Like this is something like I could see this being $85 and like if you depending on what website, like if it's a designer website, I'd be like, yeah, that's a sick, like I love the the composition here. Like some things are hard lines, other things are like kind of spray, and then like the scale of the feet. Like I would chalk all of that up to like, ooh, this designer's like got a really good vision rather than, oh, a robot doesn't know how to make feet, which is
I think it's very good at things that don't have to be precise right now. So like abstract art, that's also why landscapes I think work really well because wherever it places stuff, that's kind of how
you're not counting legs on a mountain, right?
Yeah, and the edges don't have to be super crisp and perfectly proportionate and all that. So
that's cool. Well, for the rest of the graphic design community and fantasy artists, y'all are screwed. The robots are taking your job. But for me, the logo designer, I'm still safe. So this has been a great exploration. And the whole reason I did the show today is so we could find out if Josh has job security for at least the next 2 years.
No, you're safe because you are cream of the crop, top of the line.
Oh my gosh.
Like we said, the masters will keep their jobs.
The masters will keep their jobs. Yeah, that is something to not to hop topics before we jump off. But the other thing these robots will never have is a relationship with the clients. People make purchasing choices based on your experience and what it's like to be in a room with you more than anything else. Even if you told them empirically you're going to save money if you get the robot to generate 600 different logo variations and say they're all good, they're still going to pick a human because people like people. We weren't made to do life alone. All right, Edward, where is your tweet? This is how you end the episode with like the poignant like summary of the past hour and a half of exploration and philosophy here.
AI art is cool.
I love it. This is another great note that I had is now everybody needs to practice being an art director. Because before you're used to getting a brief from somebody or maybe giving a brief to another human, but now we've all got to get better at, putting it out there. But
yeah, we gotta have better ideas. We gotta get to the core work of creativity now instead of tinkering with tools and stuff like that.
Ooh, yeah, sitting there with your notebook and actually thinking with the Wi-Fi turned off for a second, like you probably should be doing anyway. But anyway, guys, this has been a fantastic episode. We had Edward's son with us for the past hour and a half. If you didn't catch it already, if you're just now joining us, I'll drop some links to where to find Edward. He does some fantastic work. Edward, what do you want people to do with you these days? Do you take on any freelance work, or do you want to go through Brain Trust, or do you sell a book or a course? What are you doing?
I mean, yeah, just follow me at Edward Creates, and yeah, reach out if you want to work together. I would love to work on branding, especially logo design or brand identity. I also do tons of other things as well. Brain Trust Creative is the place I work, which we
Isn't that
also
agency life, lots of different
we do a
different
lot of
skills.
different work. But yeah, just like keeping up with me on social media, I think is the big thing, and reaching out if you have any questions. I ultimately would love to do more content creation, and having people following me is a key part of that. So
It certainly is. Every time you drop a new video, I'm like, dang, he's good. Like, it's just so like polished and succinct. Like you crush it, dude. And the little bit that I've seen of your logo work, like, it is fantastic. Like, tons of thought. I mean, similar to the same thing. It doesn't matter the platform, the tool, the application, or like deployment of whatever creative thing. It really comes down to the mind behind it, which has been the summary of our talk today, guys. Look forward to seeing you all next Friday, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern. We'll be live tackling a different topic with different guests. I'm excited. We got lots of fun links down below in the show notes. Please like, share, subscribe, smash that like button, bro. Leave us a review, and do whatever the things that we need to keep this party rolling. Edward, thanks again, dude. This has been fantastic.
yes, thank you for having me. It's been an honor.